And looking back at the last 8 games coming into tonight, and now looking at it as that streak is a thing of the past, what are some of the top things that you can take away from it, both positively and negatively, as it went on?
I think our games evolved over the course of that 8 game streak. Certainly, from when we started off with our 2 against Toronto, we did a good job in terms of finding things. Obviously, just continuing to improve how we defended over the course of that 8 games, I thought was good. And then when we got into this situation against Manitoba, like those were hard-fought games, these 4 games, and they were very tight. And I think that we did a bit better job of sort of tightening on our end as well in terms of our gaps and things. So I thought 5-on-5 we evolved our game. The other takeaway is that our special teams were really strong. Like for a long period there, they were really clicking on both sides of it, and that's how you get streaks put together like that. You got to have everything firing on all cylinders.
Do you think that when you were on a streak like this, like when a team full of players coming into a streak like this, do you think the mentality sometimes shifts from maybe less of the details and more of, well, we got to win this one to extend the streak? Do you think sometimes you sort of lose sight of the trees for the forest?
I think that can happen, definitely. And I think there's a couple of games in there where we get to points where our details weren't as strong. And then we would have big, guys who make big plays in order to get us back on track or keep us in the game until we settled it down. But I do know, when you look at this game, you really want to finish the road trip off well. You want to continue the streak. You want to win all your games here. You want to do a lot of things, and they all end in that end result focus kind of thing. So we try to talk about, make sure we do little things right. But tonight, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Manitoba. They played a really strong game, and they were up in our face and pinned us in for the first couple of periods for sure.
Yeah, and my next question was going to be, did you think the result of this particular game reflected the flow and the tilt of the play that you saw out there today?
Yep, I do. I think that our third period was better, but they owned the play in the first 2 periods. We had some opportunities to get it going, special teams wise, and they were strong there. Their penalty kill was strong. And I think you got to give credit to them. They played a strong game. We weren't our best, but at the same time, sometimes when you're not your best, it's because the other team plays well.
Now, obviously, with Manitoba later in the season, you're going to have another huge, long stretch of games against them. And so, just looking at the last 4 games, what things really stood out to you as the things that you're going to have to look at going into that streak at the end of the year?
Puck management, I think, would be a big one because it is a team in Manitoba that they play right up in your face, and you have to play behind them. You have to make them turn and make them face their end wall and try to make plays around your forecheck. And I felt like at times we did that well this week, and at other times we didn't. And the play reflected, or the flow reflected how we managed that. I thought today was an example of there's 2 elements of it. They're in your face so you can't make the play, or you don't decide to make the play early enough, which is your own mistake. So we got to just make sure we're aware of that.
Okay, so a couple just more broad questions looking at the last 8 games, and a guy like Matthew Phillips might have come into this season seeing a big long road trip like this as an opportunity to sort of audition for a spot. And you look at his play over the last 8 games, tied for the team lead with 14 points over that span. How if you were to say he was like he's coming into the season auditioning for a role, how well do you think that his last 8 games has acquitted himself in terms of that search?
Oh, I think he's when you talk about it, he's doing all the right things. Like is it enough to get him that audition? There's so many things that depends on, but in terms of him handling what he can handle, and his work ethic and his level of execution, those have been really good. And, there's other parts of the game beyond the scoring side of it, but he's managed to keep the chances against down, and that he's responsible for. We track chances back and forth. So I think that not only has he scored, but he's also managed his defensive responsibilities well. So hats off to him. He's done a good job. And sometimes the conditions just need to be right in order to get that chance.
Right. And then I guess my last question, coming into this season, I might not have expected to see, I'm not sure if I expected to see, this level of production from Martin Pospisil right away, coming, into the season after sort of a first AHL campaign that was, trying at times. But really impressed me over the 8-game winning streak. But also, just the physical element. And obviously there was the hit late in today's game on Perfetti, which I don't know if you've gotten to see the tape of, but just your takeaway on what Pospisil can bring to the game and how well he has acquitted himself over this streak too.
He's done really well. I think that he's had a great start here in terms of his, not only his production, which, there's 5-on-5 production, which is solid. His power play production has been very good around the net, scored a lot of his goals in that position. But that's a talent, like being at the right spot at the right time, having the hand-eye, having the grit to stay in there. But the element of Martin's game that I think has come is their first couple of games, there's a little bit of tentativeness or a little bit of detail lacked in terms of defensive awareness in zone, because a new system and we're sorting through that, and he's a center and he has an integral part in that. He's managed that really well. He's learned and been committed and working hard. And the third aspect is he's really physical and hard. Like, he gets penalties just for hitting guys. And he's a bit of a throwback. He hits more than like many of the players on the ice. And he's a very sort of intense guy that way. He loves the contact. And so he deserves a lot of credit for being not only producing, but also being hard and physical away from the puck.
Well, you talk about him being a throwback, and my first instinct after I hear something like that is that the Calgary Flames just made a pretty big throwback move of their own, bringing in, a pretty big a coach who plays a style that is very conducive to physical play. With Martin, when he's playing with as much physicality as he does, is that ever anything that you would ever want to try and restrain, or is it just something that you would want to sort of direct?
No restraint. Direct in terms of you want him to be smart in terms of the penalties that he amasses. We don't want him taking 4 penalties, but you also have to understand as his coach that he's going to play on the edge. So there's going to be penalties that he takes that are going to either just happen because he's playing hard, maybe the stick gets a little high, or he finishes a little bit late, or he's playing in a way that's physical and it doesn't look great to the referee. The referee maybe calls one, a little bit before he should. And you have to be able to accept that, because we don't want to hamper the way that Martin is making people aware of when he's on the ice in that respect. That's a really good trait, and that's something that we want to foster for sure.
Great.